Okay, welcome to episode 8 of the Lane 1 Talk Show. Phil here with my co-host Mark.
Yeah, how you doing, Phil?
Good. Doing well, thank you. How's the training going?
Things have been going a little too well lately. You know when you have those little stints where you're a little suspicious, you kind of just like side-eyeing, like, what am I doing right now? But yeah,
Right.
How are things going with you, man? How's everything been?
Everything's been good. It's like not super running related, but like, you know, I have a son who's 5. He just turned 5. I'm getting into this new world of like birthday parties and Little League and soccer and activities. He's just starting to get into all that stuff, and that's been a lot of fun, actually.
Is he hitting dingers?
He's hitting dingers. He's doing t-ball. he's hitting dingers. He's learning how to field. It's a lot of fun. It's a whole like new realm, right? You know, because I've been running for a while. I've been a teacher for a while, but like I've never been involved with Little League. I've never,
the
dad stuff. Even just going to Disney World when we were in Orlando is like, experiencing Disney for the first time through the eyes of a 4 or 5 year old's been pretty cool. So yeah, that's been cool. That's been a kind of a growing thing. It's kind of fresh because, like I said, not something that I've experienced before. But yeah, that is coming along. Just working, doing our thing.
Yeah, when does Project LeBron start working on your kid? For him, I want to race with my kid in the Boston Marathon.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the timeline, we could conceivably like be at the same club nats. I mean, I'd be a Masters or like, I don't know if I'm making the like open men's team at that point. In the 2040s. Maybe late 2030s. I'm probably not making the open men's team, but that would be fun, right?
Yeah.
So that's probably like the closest to the LeBron project, but because Bronny's like in college, right? Like,
yeah, he might declare for the draft this year, which not to be a sports podcast right now, but I think would be a big mistake if he went to the draft because he's averaging a whopping 4-2-2 off of really poor shooting splits.
Yeah.
But he might go pro because there's GM saying a team will draft him for sure if he goes pro. So
yeah. So so that is that's cool. I mean, I think that's a fun place to be for the James family. But I'm just, Calvin's a little younger than that.
Yeah, he's still a little wee lad. But all right, let's hop into a couple topics here. Let's kick it off with since we gave our preview. We know it's a little bit past time, but let's give our recap of World Indoors out in Glasgow. Yeah, so kick things off. USA men's team and women's team for the distance side. That was pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. The U.S. showed out, man. 7 medals across the distance races, so 800 and up. Bryce Hoppel taking gold in the 800, and Cole Hawker, who we were high on a couple episodes ago, got nipped at the line by Jordy Beamish, and Hobbs Kessler running a super gutsy race to pull up for third because Hobbs led a good portion of that race, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think he finally I remember after USA's, I was trashing him pretty hard on his tactics, but I think this time he cleaned it up really well. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it if a couple guys close in 25 point. Like, there's nothing you can do about that, man. Like, how many people lose a 1500 closing like a 26-1?
Not many.
Yeah, not that many people. Like, you're not going to lose many races, period, unless if Josh Kerr, Cole Hawker, or George Beamish are in your race, because those are the only guys that can close in like a 25 point.
Yeah, I mean the top 2 guys there are the guys with the biggest kick, and yeah, a guy that I was high on, who I was glowing about their tactics, Cole Hawker, kind of got shuffled around a little bit and maybe didn't have the best execution that he would probably have liked.
Yeah, he ran kind of a sloppy race, but I think unless if you were in Hobbs Kessler's position, like no one really ran too clean of a race. The issue
Yeah.
with that was they had 14 guys in the final, and it was a sitting kick on a
Yeah.
200-meter bank track.
You're right.
So I
Was
know.
was
What was
Nordos
his
in
name?
was Nordos in the 15 or the 3?
He ran the 15. So
That's right.
that's where I was going with it. He was complaining that there was 14 guys in the final because going into 400 to go, he was running in like lane 3 on the bank, trying to get to the front.
Yeah.
So unless if you had like Hobbs's positioning, or you had Jordy Beamish's kick, or if you had Cole Hawker's kick, like you're pretty much out of it.
Right.
There's no way you were getting into that.
Yeah, it's tight. Once you're shuffled back, it's, you're really not making up that ground
Yeah,
indoor.
you have to make like real convincing moves.
Yeah. In the going back to the 800, Bryce, that was a convincing performance by Bryce Hoppel. He really I think is establishing himself as a force to be reckoned with in the 800 meters on the world stage.
Yeah, the thing that's interesting about him is his style of racing. He's a very come from behind type of runner where he's just picking off people that are fading to him. So the thing I would like to see is how that works out in outdoors, just because outdoors you have a little bit more room to run and they're running a lot faster of a pace. It doesn't come down to the final 200.
Right.
And he ran a perfect indoor race in the sense of everybody else is making a ton of moves. He got out into maybe like 3rd place sitting off the rail. So he was kind of just sitting in the back waiting for guys to kind of jostle around, make their moves, because that was a super aggressive race. Like
Right.
You had the Spanish guy. I don't remember what country that guy was from, but he caused a lot of havoc to the start and just went backwards immediately. But there was a lot going on there, and Bryce kind of just sat on the outside, didn't cover any moves, and then in that final 200 just kind of picked people off. So I'm wondering to see how his tactics indoors really translate come Paris, assuming he makes the team.
And him and Kessler training together, right?
Yeah,
aren't they both training at altitude.
Yeah, that was what Bryce gave a lot of credit to. I think he has a better situation, but he did. I believe he's still getting coached by his Kansas coach, but he is doing workouts with Hobbs.
Right, a little collab. So hopefully they, help each other. With Bryce getting a little bit more maybe endurance and Hobbs maybe getting a little bit more speed.
Yeah, Hobbs just becoming a grown man, basically. Like, we forget that kid is 21 or 20. Right. He's still a kid.
Yeah.
That is a feral young child. Can't even go to the bars yet.
Yeah. Yeah. And guys, we tend to, grow and mature and develop well into our 20s. So 3K, Josh Kerr, he is him.
He's him, bro. His pronouns are he's him.
Exactly. He is him. First place. He set a world record indoor at Millrose, right? We talked about that last episode. In 2 mile and 3K indoor world champion. And won so convincingly too.
That's exactly what I was about to say. That was such a convincing win over some very good guys.
Very good. Very good. Like Seleman Barrega, the defending world champion in the 10,000 meters.
Yeah, Seleman Barrega, for context, he ran 7:25 this year. He ran faster than my 1500 PB 2 times.
And he's a dude who could, kick a 27 flat, like 10K, and close in like 53, right? Like
I think he has a 26:40, like 10K PB with like a 54 last lap.
Yeah. Right. Like he can kick off a fast pace, and like he's a veteran, like he knows the world stage. He's experienced, like, and then, Josh and Yared got up for silver, and Yared nipped him at the line, right? Yared only beat him by 500ths.
Yeah. Yared got him by it was a pretty close margin, but the thing that it's another situation like Hobbs Kessler for Seleman Barrega. I think Barrega still closed in like a 26-2. or
Yeah.
26-1.
Yep.
But shout out Total Running Productions. I'm gonna give him his credit there. I was watching his video on Josh Kerr and Yard Nagoose's race. I guess Josh Kerr ran like a 25-3 last 200, which is like the fastest recorded closing split in a 3K ever.
25 what? 25-3?
25 like 3.
Wow.
Or like 25-5, something stupid.
Yeah.
Like that. I don't even know. I can't even fathom that. I think his last 100 was like a 12-1.
Did he take the lead prior to 1 lap to go?
No, he took it on the back stretch, I believe, of the last lap.
Of the last lap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I could be wrong. Maybe it was the penultimate, but he took it over on a back stretch, made a really aggressive move, and just pulled away. I want to say it was the back stretch of the last lap.
Yeah. Yeah, and Yard was aggressive. He looked good. And then going on to the women's side, Nikki Hiltz getting up for silver in the women's 15, and Emily Mackay, that's how you say it, right?
Yeah.
Emily Mackay getting bronze. And Emily, I think, had such a gutsy race. She gets the most aggressive race award. You know, she really she took the lead, 800 to go, 600 to go, something like that.
Yeah, like 600 to go, I believe.
600 to go. She went for the world title.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, a lot of people believe, I'm going to sidebar a little bit. A lot of people believe because you put the work in, you deserve a good result.
Right.
Emily Mackay is the epitome. Like, she is legitimately the epitome of what you get is never deserved or what you get is never given. Like, for her to get that bronze, that was probably the most painful race of her life and probably the most gutsy move you could have made. She went into a race where she probably wasn't even favored to get top 5, not even favored to get top 6. She took the lead and gapped the field for a while. Like, she earned that damn bronze.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I feel is so rare with like the newest generation of runners is a lot of people feel like, oh, because I'm doing my double thresholds or because I'm doing my high mileage, I deserve to run fast or I deserve a good place. But no, she is the epitome of you have to go out and earn that thing. She was not favored to even finish on that podium, but she made such an aggressive move to end up finishing third.
Yeah, her race was very impressive, and she just went for it, kind of similar to Hobbs Kessler did in the men's race. And I agree. I think that was a great summary. Is that you just have to put yourself out there, and you just have to go for it sometimes, and it worked out for her, you know. And I feel like she's might have been even somebody who, you know, making the final was a big move, you know, was a big accomplishment.
Yeah, to be totally honest, did you know who Emily Mackay was before she made the team?
I will say that I'm not as up to date all the time as some of the younger kids are these days.
Yeah, I didn't know who she was.
But I think, you know, in summary, Team USA was fiery. We were competitive. We ran with a lot of guts. We were gritty. Up and down the roster, man, we are looking good. It's an exciting. We're young, right? What's the average of these 7 medalists? Probably 24.8. You know, if that was
if that,
right? Bryce Hoppel's probably, or maybe Nikki Hiltz. Like,
yeah, Nikki Hiltz is probably closer to 30, probably late 20s.
Late 20s.
Yeah.
Like,
a shout out. One thing that we didn't have noted here before we wrap up our world indoors. Ellie St. Pierre won the 3K.
Oh, yes. Ellie St. Pierre won the 3K in very convincing fashion. And again, adding to that pile of hardware that we took home back to the US. She ran the most tactically sound race, I think, of all these people. And, you know, she was in the 4th position the whole race. And what was it? Maybe 400 to go, 300 to go, something like that. She just made a solid move and went for it and won. And what really stands out for me is that she, like, who was it? Who's the gal from Oregon?
Oh, Jessica Hole?
Yeah, her and the leader were kind of like going back and forth, kind of like shoulder to shoulder, kind of tripping each other up a little bit in first and second. And Ellie was just right on the rail, position 4, cruising along, out of trouble, just running such a, just running her pace. And yeah, that was like a great demonstration of excellent execution.
Yeah, dude. And I believe that was also an American record in the 3K.
Yeah, it was an
She went
American record in the 3K.
8:21.
Yeah.
Like, bro, that is 13:50 pace for a 5K. Like, what
Yeah.
does that indicate that she can probably run in a 5K this outdoor season if she's running 8:21 in the 3K?
Yeah.
Like, she can
Yep.
probably come through 8:30 feeling pretty dang good, right?
Yeah.
Like, do we think she can get the American record outdoor for the 5K?
Yeah. I don't know where her focus is going to be this Olympic cycle, but I in the past she's been a 1500-meter runner, right?
Yeah, I mean, she set the American record in the mile indoor this season.
Yeah.
She has a mile and the 3K in the span of like a month.
Yeah, so, she might have some decisions to make come June. But yeah, no, that I'm glad you reminded me of that, because that was such an impressive performance. But yeah, just adding to the collection of medals that we brought back. Going on NCAA's, just wanted to touch on that briefly. Parker Valby, she is her.
Child's play, man. She makes some very fast runners look not fast.
Yeah, she is. She's exciting to watch. Inspiration, and then what I like is that, she does these cross country too. She was consistent in cross country, NCAA title, comes back indoor, NCAA title. Let's keep it moving. Nico Young, same thing. Double 3K, 5K. He's committing to running the 10 this weekend. And I think he's in the pro heat, right? He's in the fast heat.
Yeah, my man's confidently said that he thinks he can run 27 or faster. Like, that's all that's on his mind is the Olympic standard. That's why he's running it. The man thinks he's running under 27.
He might.
I think he ran a 12:56.
He ran 12:56, 12:57 at the meet you were at.
Yeah, like he's fit. He's
fit
right now.
Yeah, he could legitimately break 27. Is that the Olympic A standard? Is it 27 flat?
27 flat, yeah.
That's nuts. Yeah, that's this weekend in San Juan Capistrano or J. Sarah High School, something like that.
Yeah, J. Sarah High.
That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. What do you think the winning time will be at that meet? They're gonna pace for 27 minutes for context.
Are they pacing for 27:00 or are they pacing for 26:55?
I think 27:00.
I mean, I think they're gonna run 26:53.
26:53. That's a good guess. Mine, I was thinking it's gonna be Grant Fisher in 26:44.
Ooh. Okay. Let's note that. It's here. You heard it here.
Yeah, you heard it here. I'm gonna say 26:44 because I think they're gonna wind up squeezing it down in like the last mile or so. And then I think it's gonna come down to a serious sprint because there's a couple guys that I think are gonna be in contention.
Yeah.
But I really think the favorites in this one, in my opinion, it's gonna come down to Grant and Nico Young.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that there's gonna be anybody else in contention with them.
And we're filming this we're recording this the Friday night before the race. So we will just for context, because in case this comes out on Monday or whatever, that we're making our predictions in the actual past.
Yeah, exactly. This is we're recording this on Friday. Let's see what they run on Saturday. I'm actually really excited for that meet. I don't know if anyone else finds 10Ks exciting, but I do.
I like it because it's the 10. Like it's its own meet. It's its own activity, and they have a variety of other heats too.
Yeah. Had I known that there was going to be 3 heats, I probably would have entered.
What's the C heat? What's the goal for that one?
I think 28:20, which is unfortunate because that's where I think like I'm in my wheelhouse right now, like right around 28:30, 28:20. So really would have liked to be a part of that. Our boy Brian Gajaro's entered.
Oh, nice.
So Yeah, so we'll see what he can run in there. But
Yeah.
yeah, they have 3 heats. One of them going 28 flat, the other one going 28:20, and I think the A heat going 27 minutes.
Yeah, that all those are going to be exciting. I love a good third heat. You know, I used to do a lot of third heats back in the day.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
Okay, cruising down. Should we talk about how give an update on our training?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. It's been about what 3 weeks since our last pod.
Yeah.
So, Phil, you're coming still off of the Olympic trials,
I'm
barely
still
becoming a runner again. How are
I'm
things going for you, man?
it is I'm in this I'm running 6 days a week. And I'm starting to incorporate some light workouts. I did a midweek long run on Tuesday. I was trying to just pick it up, like, and usually my midweek long runs are about 12 to 14 miles, and I'll go 3 miles easy, 3 miles at like 6-minute pace, and then after 6 miles in, I'll try and be about 540s, and then 1 mile cool down at the end. And the other day it was just like I got down to like 6-minute pace, and that felt pretty hard.
5K pace?
It's like 5K pace. But it's I'm in kind of an awkward place right now in terms of my fitness. I'm in that space where I'm going from like easy like 4-mile runs to trying to get back on the mileage, you know? So like
Yeah.
I got some soreness and, you know, having to, you know, stretch out and do the rehab stuff. But I'm on the slow ascent. It's just crazy, like this sport, how like you ebb and flow in fitness, right? You ebb and flow. Like sometimes you're in incredible shape and you can go out there and you can, you know, battle Robert Miranda on the streets of San Jose in a half marathon, right? Or you can, you know, go shoulder to shoulder with Silas Franz in Golden Gate Park, you know, and then, you know, a few weeks after your marathon, it's like hard to break 9 minutes in the mile for 2.5 miles.
Yeah, like you would not win the Aurora Grande all comers 2 mile.
No, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't win that. I would, you know, I would be top 4 with some high schoolers in there, you know, and
Yeah.
and it's just, you know, that's part of what we do. But I guess the encouraging part is that, you know, there is potential. You got to stick with it, and you know, I'll be back to good form, hopefully not too long. But yeah, that's where I am. I'm just like in the just beginning phases of adding quality.
Yeah, so with that in mind, what would when you are building back up, what would an ideal training week look like for you, like day to day? Kind of spell out what like your key training principles, what every day in a week would look like for you when you are building up.
Well, and ideally, if I'm established,
Ideally.
I got a good base underneath me and I'm ready to hit it how I like to. Monday is usually a easy run, so anywhere from like 45 to 60 minutes. And if I have time, I'll do some weights. I'll get in the weight room. So that's Monday, usually pretty light start off the week. Tuesday, ideally, or before work, get a midweek long run in. So 12 to 14 miles, 15 miles, you know, in that kind of format that I described earlier. 3 miles at easy pace, 3 miles at like around 6-minute pace. And then after 6 miles, you know, I try to be around 5:30 to 5:40. And I midweek long runs for me are like the indicator species of my training. They tell me about how the rainforest is doing. Like they're the health of my training. If I have a good midweek long runs and they're consistent, I don't need to do 18-mile midweek long runs. There's a lot of people on Strava that do 18, and that's fine if you do. But yeah. I need 12 to 14 consistent, even 11 to 14 mile midweek long runs. If I'm consistent with them, I know that my training is going well. So that's really a big measure for me. And then Wednesday, we come back Wednesday nights with some shorter intervals, which I hope to return to in a couple of weeks here. And I mean, you've been more consistent with the Wednesdays than I have. It's usually some sort of 200, 400, 300, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Thursday is usually easy, 45 to 60 minutes. Sometimes I'll lift on Thursday if I can. Friday, I usually take off from running and I'll either cross train weights or just go full 0 day, depending on what we got going on as a family. A lot of times Fridays are our travel days if we're going out of town for something. And then Saturday, my weekends are big being, and we'll talk about blue collar running later, but like having working full time and having a family and all that, like I get like, sometimes I'll get like 60% of my mileage in on Saturday and Sunday.
It's a real thing, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll get like, when I'm really training for a marathon or half marathon, I'll get 30 plus miles in 32 miles, something like that, sometimes depending on what we got going on. But Saturday, longer intervals or a tempo run or a combination of longer intervals and tempo run. And Sunday is long run. For me, I like to be north of 16 when I'm healthy and at full steam. Obviously marathon season, it's, 18 plus. And yeah, that's how I like, and I've stuck with that framework for the majority of my post-collegiate career. So 15 or 16 years at this point. I've made little tweaks here and there. Sometimes the midweek long run gets moved to Thursdays. Sometimes the day off comes on Thursday. I like planning on Tuesday midweek long runs because it gives me some flexibility later in the week.
Yeah.
In case something, I got to take an easy day, I got to take a day off, whatever. What about you? What are some of your focuses in your training?
Yeah, so for me, these are my must-haves on Monday. Monday is like a big track or speed session for me, or development, for lack of a better term. So me, I'm not a natural leg speed guy. So for me, I'm very reliant on these kind of um these kind of little, I don't know why I'm not thinking of the word right now, supplementary, like type of
Supplementary, yep.
yeah. So for me, Monday is usually 5 or 6 miles. Really easy. I usually stay flat dirt. And then the big emphasis on that is going to be drills. I do a lot of plyometrics just to try to develop range of motion and develop power. Usually in the fall and winter, my speed development looks like 6 to 8 hill strides, 20 seconds hill strides. If anybody's at Poly, that hill right next to the track,
the parking lot.
Yeah, the parking lot hill.
Mm-hmm.
I like to do that 6 to 8 times, focusing on good form, good posture, just trying to get my form underneath me. And once track season rolls around is when I start spiking up. So maybe I started this in February where I'm hitting I start with 150s. I'll do like 6x150 with pretty good amount of rest in between. So I'm not like trying to get mileage here. A lot of it is around trying to get comfortable at that pace. Leg speed doesn't come natural to me. So I'm hitting like 150s, starting at like 21, getting down to like 19. And the idea for there is hit the 150, I'll walk 100 meters and then jog another 150 meters. So that's maybe about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes between each 150. And as the season progresses, it'll be like 2x150, 2x200, 2x150, kind of the same principle, trying to hit those same splits. And then by the end of the season, what were we going to say?
I was going to ask about the 150s. Are they just like straight through 150s, or do you ever do like the float, like sprint of 50, float of 50, sprint of 50?
I've done that, but they kind of take a little bit out of me for the sake of not trying to make them a full workout. Usually when I do the sprint, float, sprint, it actually like fatigues the hell out of me.
Yeah.
So I've experimented with those, but I took them out.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we did. I mean, I did. We did those in college, and I think I think they are beneficial. But if that is if you are focusing on the middle distances, I think they're helpful. But then you're right. If it becomes kind of more of a workout, then it's like, okay, are we doing 3 workouts a week?
Yeah, exactly.
I was just curious.
Yeah, no, I have experimented with that. It just took a little too much out of me, but the idea is by the end of the season, I can get to 6x200 and I'm hitting them all on 26. And when I can do that, 26, 27, feeling pretty good. 26. And it's not, yeah, and it'll be like 26.5, 26.6. It's not like a 26.0, but usually that's like peaked end of season, June, July. And I'll do it like 1 or 2 times. And it'll be like, all right, I'm ready to go. Like my speed is there. But
you're working up to that, right? You're working up to that with the 150s, and you're not going to just go and do a 26 out of nowhere. It's going to be a progression.
Yeah. Like, for example, we're in March. I'm at 2 by 150, 2 by 200, 2 by 150, and I've hit the 200s in 27 and 26 one time so far. So I'm getting there. I got a 27. My second one was a 26.9, and I was pretty damn hyped about that because it's
Yeah.
like, all right, we in March and I have one of them down to 26. So hopefully once like May rolls around, we're going to start hitting more 26s there. But let's move on to Tuesday. I spent a little much time on that. But also Monday's weights. I'm really just about weights on Monday as well, just anything speed and intensity. But let's move on to Tuesday. And here's the reason why when I'm saying I don't want Monday to feel like a workout, and that's why I'm taking generous rest, is because Tuesday is midweek long run. For those of you that follow me on Strava, I did say midweek long run is a poor man's double threshold. So for me here, I usually try to find a distance that feels pretty good. It varies from season to season. Some seasons 12 feels really good. Some seasons 14 feels really good. This season I've been 13. Don't know what it is about that number, but I have been able to run it pretty solid. My goal is I run this one with a heart rate monitor. Shout out Ryan Van Hoy calling me out, being like, "Are you wearing a heart rate monitor on an easy run?" It's like, to a degree, yes. Like 13 miles, and I want my heart rate to try to be around 150 to 155 as much as possible. And while cranking down that pace, but making sure I never climb above 160 at any point in that run. Sometimes, I usually do it on second farm. For those of you that know the Poly area, Standard Creek, it's a rolling trail. So you're going to hit some harder efforts when you are kind of rolling. So for me, super important to get that down. I feel like you said too, with the midweek long runs, those when you start getting those smooth and you start getting down into the 530s, 520s, even when you
Mhm.
start getting really fit and it's coming natural, and that heart rate data is showing like, oh, I ran a 537 this last week and my heart rate peaked at 155. It's like, okay, you're right around that 80% of your maximum heart rate, which is what Joe Rubio coins as last 40 minutes at 80%,
Yeah.
at 80% pace.
Yeah, thank you for defining what a midweek long run is. I know we talk about it pretty casually, but it is. I would say it's a keystone feature of Joe Rubio's training.
Yeah. And it's super important just because it's the most efficient way of developing your aerobic system. It's the most efficient way to recruit the most muscle fibers and the most mitochondria, powerhouse of the cell.
Right.
And it's the most efficient way to where that you recover. But you get a lot of aerobic work in. You get a lot of benefits from that. And you recover fast enough for Wednesday, which for me, similar to you, is shorter intervals. We do a lot of 200s, 300s, 400s, and I usually hit a double in that morning, so it's a pretty heavy day. And shorter intervals incredibly important no matter what distance you do. You're a marathoner, short intervals. You're a 15 runner, short intervals.
Right.
Yeah, so super important in our build up. This past week, short intervals were 10 by 300 with a 100 jog, 8 by 200. All that stuff is going to be key later in the season, and I'm training for a 10K.
Right.
And yeah, Thursday will be easy. I'll usually stick flat dirt, usually soft surface. I either do a single 10 miler or I do 5 and 5. Yesterday, I broke it up to a 5 and 5 because I was feeling pretty lousy post workout. So it's like, all right, it's just about getting in the mileage, nothing exciting. Usually try to keep heart rate pretty low, try to keep effort really low. It's almost a glorified jog. And then similar to you, Friday is 6 miles and or a 0 day, depending how I'm feeling. Even sometimes be flexible with that day. Sometimes all I can muster is 4. And then we move on to Saturday. Saturday is going to be a super heavy day. Like similar to you, I'm a weekend warrior.
Mhm.
About 50 to 40 to 50% of my mileage comes on Saturday and Sunday. So Saturday's longer intervals, things that we talked about, like our 4 by 2 miles or our 4 3 1s or 2 by 4 miles. So you'll walk away from a Saturday practice with 14 miles under your belt. And then normally I come back in the PM, hit double in weights. Just, you're going to make your hard days hard.
Yep.
And then Sunday for me is long run. So I usually like to go to MDO a lot, really hilly, rolling terrain,
Mhm.
just something a little bit different than what I'm doing from the day-to-day mundane loops. Everyone that sees my Strava sees I do some of the most boring freaking runs on the day-to-day. So I
Yeah.
really enjoy when I get to drive out to these places. Occasionally have gone out to Santa Maria on the Levee Trail just because it's flat dirt out and back.
Right.
But for long runs, I do like to keep it interesting. I do like hills in there. I do feel it's beneficial to keep changing up the terrain.
Yeah, I think changing up the terrain, changing up the scenery
Yeah.
is key to changing up the routine a little bit. You know, the monotony of things is helpful too. It helps keep the mind busy. It helps to motivate you. You know, you reward yourself with a beautiful long run.
Yeah. I mean, even just changing a few things in training, like tweaking a few things, like working out in a different place, lifting in a different location, working out at a different track, like little things like that tend to flip the switch a little bit because it makes it more of a thing. That's why I was excited to do that one double threshold session that one time.
Hmm.
I was already like, you know, 12 weeks into training. And sometimes it's nice to just kind of do something completely new that you've never done before. Like that was exciting.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do need those things,
Yes, you do.
but yeah, that's essentially what my perfect week looks like.
Yeah, very similar. I think some of the tweaks that I might make sometimes on mine is like if some of our sessions on Saturday are like super beefy,
Mhm.
like those long tempo runs or something, and I'm getting in like 17 or 18, I
Yeah.
might just do like a 9 or 10 miler on Sunday. I am pretty low mileage, like I'm like a 60, 70 mile a week kind of person when I'm in good shape. So you know, I might if I'm coming back from a big demo man workout, I may go like a 10 mile Sunday run if I wake up and I feel a little fatigued or something.
I remember one year, I think we did a 3x3 mile. And then I
Yeah.
hit you up. It was maybe like in 2018. We did a 3x3 mile, 3 mile warm up, 3 mile cool down with like I think Joe gave us a mile jog in between each three
Yeah.
mile. And we finished with like 18, 19 miles on just the morning.
Yeah.
And I remember I texted you, "Are you going long tomorrow?" You're like, "We did a long run today, man. I'm not long running tomorrow."
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes you just have to be that's how it goes. You have to be okay with that sort of thing and it's like those decisions like when you cuz I'll come up with that like, you know, Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, right? And
Yeah.
it'll be like a revelation of like I did 19 today. I I'm gonna do 10 tomorrow. I'm gonna do 8 tomorrow. You know, I yeah. So and you have to kind of give yourself permission to do that. You know, you don't have to be locked into such a rigid plan all the time.
Yeah, I would say the only thing that stays pretty rigid for us is like the days of the week where you work out.
Yeah. Yes,
Like we
that's
rarely
rigid.
change. Yeah, we rarely change that unless if like, you have a wedding on a Saturday, so you need to work out Tuesday, Friday, or you're racing Friday, so you got to work out Tuesday.
That's always a little bit messy doing the workout for me because I like the midweek long run so much. It's like, do I do it
Yeah.
on Wednesday and then it's only one day, you know? So, but you make it work, right? When
Yeah, you have
you
to
make it
figure
work.
it out. So, just for context, I've gotten this question a lot just because, most people do Tuesday, Friday when they work out. Hold on, my chair is sinking. Ugh. But most people work out Tuesday, Friday. And I've had people flat out ask me, like, why do you work out Wednesday, Saturday? It's so like obscure. And to be plain and simple, we do a lot of workouts on Saturday because, we all work
Yes.
and nothing is lit up after work to go do a road tempo.
No, where are you gonna do 19 miles worth of tempo work on a Friday evening?
Friday after work in October.
Yeah, the sun sets at like 3:30 PM.
Yeah, that's definitely like probably the most blue collar thing that we do. I love that people think that sometimes that there's a rhyme or reason why we pick to block them like that, but honestly it's just because we work full-time jobs the
Yeah.
whole time.
Yeah, we have full-time jobs and workouts take a long time, you know,
Yeah.
2, 3 hours, and long runs take a long time. Again,
Yeah.
you know, if you're talking about driving out to MDO, running 17 miles and driving back, that could be close to 2.5, 3 hours.
Yeah, that's a 3-hour fiasco right there.
That's a 3-hour fiasco. We don't have 3 hours in the middle of our Thursday to do that.
Yeah. So how would you define what a blue collar runner is?
I would define a blue collar runner as a runner who takes running seriously, but needs a job to maintain their lifestyle, to pay for things in life, to pay your rent, your car, your cell phone, your bills, your health insurance, that sort of thing. You know, you know, that to me is what a blue collar runner is. You know, there you might have people who have a club or who have some support from like a club or a club that is sponsored by a shoe company. Like we have Hoka Aggies, so we get some support, we get equipment and travel support and stuff. But the large majority, vast majority of an income of a blue collar runner comes from another job, from a day job.
Yeah, so it's almost essentially like a glorified. I always say it's a glorified hobby for me. Like it's a hobby that pays for itself, but also I take it incredibly serious.
Exactly.
But
It's something you take very seriously.
but at the end of the day, like you said, we have to keep the main thing the main thing. So for us, like we have to make sure that we're still succeeding at our jobs. You have a full-on family. Like you have a
Right.
child that just turned 5 this weekend. Me, I have rent to pay, I have bills to pay. I like to eat. I like to go places. I
Right.
like to I like to buy my family nice gifts for their birthdays and Christmas and whatnot. So for us, we still have to work full-time job, and a
Yeah.
lot of the training that we just talked about that we do, we're fitting it around mostly work.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, you know, maybe it's good that we have, you know, me being kind of, you know, a little bit in a different generation, an older generation, because it's a little bit of a contrast. You're going to be closer to the college aged, you know, people coming out of college. And I'm, you know, maybe can speak a little bit about those who have kids and families and stuff. And, you know, I'm getting to the point where it's sometimes that family stuff or whatever's going on, you know, that might take priority. I might have to just be like, I'm going to run 3.5 miles today, and then we're going to go do T-ball. Like, you know, I've made decisions like that, and it's fine. I gladly do. But that's, you know, what we do to keep it moving and to keep, you know, even if it's 3.5 miles, it's still a run for me, and I still get to go out and exercise. And B, you know, the compromise is being able to support your family and be there when it matters for the T-ball, or to, you know, release my wife so she can go, you know, get her hair done or something like that. Because that is also important, right? That is also important to support your family and your household.
And
Things
support
like
support what she wants to be doing too.
Exactly. Exactly. Support what she wants to be doing, because, you know, the sacrifices that she makes to wake up early and fly across the country for all my things and drive to all these places. And, you know, that is a sacrifice that she makes, and it's reciprocated. You know, it's reciprocated. And, you know, with similarly, right, what she wants to do, I'm there. You know, hey, girls night out, whatever, I'm there.
All right. What was your first job transitioning out of college to being a blue collar runner? What was the first thing you did?
Transition. Well, the first thing I did was I was still working at the grocery store that I worked at in college. I worked at a place called Smart and Final. And so transitioning out of graduating college, going into my post collegiate career, I was working at the grocery store. I was working, you know, like 30 plus hours a week. So I was, you know, working the cash register, stocking the shelves, unloading the truck, cleaning the bathrooms, you know, mopping the floor, you know, just you know, doing all that stuff. Sometimes I'd work nights, weekends, holidays, that sort of thing. I honestly consider myself like a Smart and Final alumni, like, because I worked there in high school and in college and after college, you know, so Smart and Final. Yeah. So I feel like I was, you know, I got a minor in Smart and Final warehousing, right? And I liked working there. I really did. And then and then after that, I got into substitute teaching and coaching high school, and went back to grad school and got my teaching credential, and eventually started teaching and coaching, which is where I am now. But yeah, that was my first job. And, you know, I distinctly, this is a good story. Like 2008 ish. I did the Santa Monica 5,000. And back in those days, it was pretty competitive, right? It was, and I was working at Smart and Final at the time, and it was pretty competitive. So I go down there, and it used to be one of those races where people from Flagstaff would like come over and get like a competitive, I think it was in September or October, so they'd get like a competitive 5K in, and they had prize money.
Yeah.
And at the time, my PR in the 5K, I believe, was like 14 flat, 1401, and I forget how much the prize money was, but there was bonuses for breaking 15 or breaking 14 and winning, and then also like setting the course record or whatever. So we get out there, and it was like, I think Brett was it Brett Kotcher? Some of the guys from like Team Run Flagstaff or something, because this was before Nas Elite. This might have even been before McMillan Elite. This was like maybe Team Run Flagstaff or something. I don't remember exactly the team name,
They
but there
were
was
around when I was in college.
Team Run Flagstaff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it might have been them. I don't remember. Like some of the clubs out there have changed, but anyways, we get out, we get going, and I end up somehow winning that thing in like 1357, and I won like $1,500 or $1,800, and I remember like that being so much money. I'm like, I've never really seen a bank account with a comma in it, at that point in my life, and like I was just like, so like, what this is so much money. I remember just like being just in awe that I was able to do that, and that was like my, and I actually haven't really made much more than that like since. I mean, some races here and there, but like that was such an eye opener to like the world of road racing, right? And what's out there. Like for a time that I would, get third place in the C heat at Peyton Jordan, I was winning some dollars. And so like that was like, that was my appetizer, and that really like turned me on to running roads and stuff like that. But yeah, that was a fun era. What about you? What was your first job right out of college?
My first job after college, I graduated working at Tilly's, still in the retail store, working in the hamster ball, man, just walking in circles, being like, yo, what's up, bro? How can I help you today? But after that, when I moved to Slow, my first job was working customer service for Joe Rubio at Running Warehouse. And I can't lie, looking back at it, like, yeah, I'm not a big fan of customer service, just because for me, I'm a very logical based person. So dealing with people who are coming with really irrational problems or really illogical problems, and after a while, I started working with like purely escalated situations. So every time I came in, my inbox would be full of like red flags of people that are just incredibly angry. So for me, I was working customer service, and most Aggies were. So I can't lie, it was pretty fun because it was like me, Aaron Potts, Nick Wolf, like Derek Thomas, Ali Salatis, Kelsey Lukowski. Like and it was competitive too, working on the CSR floor, because we had a pretty fire squad, in the sense of everybody was pretty dang bright. Everybody was very successful. Like you had Kelsey, who had a damn like neuroscience degree. I had a marketing degree. Aaron had a kines degree. Jesse had a marketing degree. Derek had a marketing degree. Nick had a marketing degree. So we had like this collective group of really competitive people, all competing to see who could have the least errors, all working on the same floor. At the same time, a lot of us were living together too. So we would like go out together, we would hang out together, we'd run together. But yeah, it was definitely a grind, because there'd be times where, you're not working the most standard hours. You're not working just 9 to 5 every day. There's sometimes I'd work like 9:30 to 6:30 or 9:30 to 6, and then you work 6 a.m. to 3:30. So you're kind of just grinding along. And at the time, I was only making $12.50, trying to pay my rent, pay my living, and all that kind of stuff. And for me, I'm a little bit prideful. So like, I wasn't going to be asking anybody for help. I wasn't going to be asking my parents for like anything. So it was, like you said, I had never seen a comma in my bank account for a little while.
Right.
It took some time. And I remember the first time where I finally saved over, I think, like $1,000 in my bank account, and I was like, I'm rich.
Yeah.
Like, your boy's a baller.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I can get this bill like swiping because I had never seen a comma in my bank account, but
Never.
yeah. But that was my first job out of college. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest.
What was like, because you're closer to this than I've been. What was like the biggest adjustment going from being a student athlete in college to working, working at Running Warehouse, or working your first couple jobs out of college while still training, and the transition to paying bills and taking care of yourself and all those responsibilities of being an adult?
I think the hardest transition was one, in college, I was a big fish in a small pond. Like, I was 8th in the country in D2, and that was my only reference point. I didn't really like, yeah, you look at what Edward Cheserek's doing in D1, you look at like what the Colorado guys are doing in D1, but like that's not your reference point. I'm not competing with them regularly. Like, my reference point was being one of the big fish in the small pond. I had goals of being All-American. I had goals of being conference champion. I had goals of being national champion at some point. But like, end of my career, I was 8th in the nation in the 10K on the track, and then I was 13th in the 5K. So like, I was a real big fish in a small pond. I think the hardest transition was learning that like you're really not that good in the grand scheme of things, because you get tossed into this world of now everything is wide open. You're not getting into meets anymore because your coach is entering you. You don't have a training room anymore, so you have to figure all that out by yourself. You don't have a massage on command. You don't have access to an ice bath. You don't have an access to a bag of ice like for free. You don't have access to all the little things. A consistent weight room, like
Right.
all that little stuff. And I think that was the hardest transition for me was one, learning that like my first training group that I had was you, Psycho Scott, and Will Pipe and Geiken. Like that was my first training group. Everybody was running so freaking well at that time. I think Scott had just run like 63:30 in Doha.
Yep.
In the half marathon. Like, you were coming off of the Olympic trials in the marathon. Will was coming off of his breakout season where he ran 29.0s and 13:50 something. And
yeah, Scott and I think shortly before that, Scott and I were top 5. I was 5th and he was 3rd at the US Marathon.
The US half champs, right?
The US half champs, yeah.
Yeah, that was the Shaddy's not that fast kind of race.
Oh.
But that's a story for another time. We'll bring Scott on the pod. I'm sure a lot of people would like to hear what Scott Boz is up to, but that's a good story. Shaddy's not that fast. But but basically, yeah, like that was my first training group. You guys were fit. I had gained 20 pounds after college because I thought I was gonna, start gaining weight and start lifting and stuff like that. Like, I thought I was gonna go into NARP life, but I hopped into this group and I thought I can do what I did in college. I was top G in college. And I came in and I was getting dropped every single workout. I was getting beat every single workout. I wasn't recovering well. Like, I lived at home in college. So like, sometimes your mom or pretty dang frequent, my mom's making dinner, like having dinner for me ready on the stove when I got home from work. Like, I had things pretty much sorted out for me. And now it was like, okay, you have to do everything on your own.
Mm-hmm.
You have to figure out, like, you have to navigate, like, oh, shoot, I have to go to the mechanic. This isn't something that I kind of just like toss the keys to my dad, be like, yo, my check engine light's on. Like,
yep.
Like, you have to take care of literally every step of the way. And now you're not running well. And now you're getting your ass whooped. Now you're making $12.50 an hour. Now you're living in a room smaller than your wingspan. Like, a lot of it was just, you are at the bottom of the barrel. And I think that was a really hard transition for me. Was it felt like I was starting from scratch. I wasn't like, I went from feeling literally in May 2017, I peaked like in my life, in my opinion. I graduated college. Like, I accomplished all my running goals. I set a school record. Everything felt like it was at its all-time high in my life. All of a sudden, like 3 months later, you are the worst runner on your team. You are working a job that's not paying you very well. You're working a job that you don't want to be working because you feel like you got your degree, you should be in your field. So just starting at that bottom of the barrel, that was super hard for me.
Yeah. And Joe, retrospectively, Joe Rubio talks about like you become a freshman again after you graduate from college.
Yeah.
Do you find that an accurate statement?
Oh, 100%, man. It's kind of like, I know a lot of college kids have this issue too. Me, I just told you all the things I was going through. And on top of that, like I was going out and partying a lot. I lived half a mile from downtown Slow. I was also 20 pounds heavier. And I had the audacity to say, Joe's not a good coach. I'm not running well. It's all his fault. Like, Joe doesn't know what he's doing. I ran so much faster when I was in college. Like, that was my sentiment at the time as like a 21-year-old child. And then,
Yep.
like, you look at it in retrospect, and I'm like, that guy would hear me saying shit like this. Sorry. He would hear me saying stuff like that about him, or he would hear that about him. And the dude never quit on me 7 years
Yeah.
later. Like, me and him have a good relationship now, and like mutual respect for each other. And at that time, the dude gave me a job. The dude hooked me up with a place to live. The dude hooked me up with the club that now sponsors me, like sponsors us,
Mm-hmm.
and a brand. And meanwhile, I'm over here saying like he doesn't know what he's doing. And it was
Yeah.
all self-inflicted stuff. Like I was a freshman again.
And I think the mark of a great coach is, you know, knowing the athletes better than they might know themselves.
Yeah.
You know,
But I've talked a lot on this topic. What was your toughest transition?
my toughest transition. That's oh man, that transition occurred a long time ago. For me, it was a little bit of finding direction. Exactly what I wanted to do. Right, like I you know, you had a marketing degree and you were working kind of in that world. I mean, to you, you know, kind of in that world, maybe not directly, but closer than. I had a degree in kinesiology and I was working at a grocery store, you know, and I knew I wasn't going to be there forever. So I think I kind of like, you know, stumbled a little bit with what my direction was initially, right? And you
Yeah.
know, you would get caught with those check engine lights. You would get caught with those like, oh man, you know, my registration is due this month or whatever, you know, or not having insurance or something like that. Actually one time I got an MRI and I didn't have a job yet. I didn't have a good job yet. So like Mondo and Joe helped me like navigate that. And Mondo like helped me find like the Medicare place to get my MRI, and actually Joe offered to pay for it. Luckily though, I was able to use my like OD funding, but like that was my sort of like story with that was, you know, I needed an MRI and I was like, didn't know how to figure it out. I was like 23-year-old,
Yeah.
and Mondo was like, hey, I got you an appointment here. It's the lowest price that, you know, for Medicare, Medi-Cal, whatever. And Joe was like, just make the appointment. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. And, but yeah, I was, you know, those sort of moments happened. And for me, it was finding direction and really kind of got my mind rolling and got me going in a positive career trajectory was starting to substitute teach and coach. I started substitute teaching and also coaching. And then you know, that's kind of when I met my wife, who would eventually become my wife. And I got a little bit of direction. So I think my stumbling block or my growth curve was just finding that direction and finding that like that balance, right? Because I find a lot of I get a lot out of like working. Like I get a lot of fulfillment out of my job, my day job. I like teaching and
Yeah.
I like the relationships that I have with students and my coworkers. And that was
Yeah.
meaningful. That was meaningful for me. And I think that was the missing part of my early career was I didn't have a strong connection like during the day or during when I wasn't running. Like I would be at the grocery store and I like the people that I work with there, but like when you're working at a grocery store, you're not hanging out. You're not, I mean, not that you're hanging out as a teacher, but you're like, there's a lot more turnover in the grocery store and there's only like 4 people working at a time, or you might be working nights, you know, it's not as interactive, and there's not, and teaching is a career field that supports and promotes longevity. They want you to be there for 30 years, right? You always hear about
Yeah.
these teachers who teach and coach for 30, 40 years. So I think once once I sort of knew that that was going to be my path, things started to fall in line. And that's like when, when I was in grad school, that's when I ran 13:39 in the 5K. And, that's when I was a teacher, I was making, those USA teams and qualifying for the Olympic trials and stuff. And I think that was the missing part of my early career. Like, my first probably 18 months, really, it wasn't that long, but the first sort of year and a half, 2 years of my post-collegiate career, having a strong connection to a workplace or whatever you want to call it was something that I'm glad I eventually found.
Yeah, I get that. Just having something greater to work towards, right?
Yeah. And I didn't have, I had friends in town but we didn't have the Aggie house that you guys had. I had like Jameson Mora and like, maybe Eric Champagne, but none of us like lived together. And, there wasn't that level of accountability.
Yeah. That probably could have been a blessing too.
Yeah. It could have. Yeah, exactly. It could have been a blessing too.
Yeah. But at the same time, no, I get that. It's definitely a little bit better when you start getting other things in your life in line, right? Like,
yes,
that is one thing that I am grateful for about being a blue collar guy is my whole life isn't contingent on running fast. Like, if I had running taken away from me today, like my life would change dramatically because I do love this damn thing. I do spend a lot of time on this damn thing, but at the same time, like my livelihood's not taken away. Like I'm not worried about, like, I still have health insurance. I still have an ability to pay my rent. I still have an ability to buy my food. I still have a whole other identity outside of running. And that's the thing that I think I've loved a lot about being blue collar is it allows you to put your eggs in multiple baskets just in case if there are times you do get hurt, like you do get injured. And during that time, what you tend to find solace in is the other things that you do have going on in your life, right? Meanwhile, if you're a professional runner and your whole contingency, like your whole life is contingent on performing well or making sure you don't get a reduction or hitting your race quotas and not getting cut, that is a stress that you and I don't have.
Yeah, exactly. And I think having purpose outside of running, I think is a really good point. I'm glad you made it because, I like running. Obviously I like running, but I also like being able to do it in the way that I like to do it. Right. I like to do PA races. I like to do the Santa Barbara half marathon. Like I like to do the, Elmhurst, Illinois 4 and the 4th. Like I like these little races. I always have liked them. And like, to not be stressed out to like, oh, I haven't made USAs or I didn't do this Millrose games or something like that. Like I think that is an added stress, like you said. And to find fulfillment in my career and to have time to travel with my family in the summers and in the holidays. And, that all factors into kind of the positives of being a blue collar runner.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Let's talk about some like, I don't know, what can you call it? Some goonish things that happen because you're a blue collar runner.
Blue collar moments.
Blue collar moments.
Yeah.
So kick us off. Give us.
Yeah, we have some blue collar moments that we've shared that kind of highlight what we do. So I've talked about this before, but I coached for 14, 15 years at the high school level, and I only recently just stepped away. And I was a head coach for 6 of those years. So, a lot of experience, overnight trips and stuff. So, the last season that I was coaching, we went to the Clovis Invite and we stayed at this hotel in Fresno. And I think our first race was at 10 a.m., which means you got to get there at like 8, which means you got to leave the hotel at like 7 because it takes an hour to get in there sometimes because there's so much traffic and so many teams trying to get in. So if you're leaving at 7, you're out the door, in the lobby at 6:50. And when you're the coach, you're the first one there, right? You're the first one there. I got to make sure the kids are there. I got to check out the hotel and pay everything. So, and the reason why I'm backwards planning, because the time matters here. So that morning I got up at 4 a.m. and I did 6 times 5-minute hard, 1 minute easy. So basically like a modified tempo around the neighborhood for my hotel. I found this mile loop and I didn't drift off that loop. I did my warm up around that loop. I did my workout and my cool down around that thing. And that's actually a strategy that I've used. I've done that quite a bit. Like if you talk to Blake, we've done, just about every season, we'll go out there. But yeah, that was kind of my, that really, I think, epitomized what we would do. And then I would go coach a whole full day at the meet, and it's a lot of energy, man, especially if you got JV teams and frost off. Like, it's a lot of energy pouring into making sure the kids are getting checked in and making sure that they have, their water and stuff, but then also running around the course cheering for them. I probably put another 4 or 5 miles, 6 miles at the course just running around, after having already run, 10 or 12 miles that same morning. And then you got to drive them back. You got to drive them back to the high school and, unload the van and all that stuff. And yeah, that was a serious blue collar moment, because I didn't get back into my home until like 7 p.m. And it's like if I went out at 7 p.m. after being coaching all day, I would have probably injured myself.
Yeah, I have to say one of my favorite blue collar moments for you was the Capital Cross Challenge back in like 2019.
Oh yeah.
That one was hilarious to me, where you coached a full day and then just like, spiked up and hit the collegiate race.
Dude, that one, I can't remember if it was boys or girls, but our high schoolers ran the race right before the men's 8K.
Yeah.
Right. So I didn't when I did that, I never shorted on their attention. Like I just put my racers on and went to the line. I did a couple strides. I didn't warm up. I didn't go away from I made sure I fist bump everybody. I debriefed with all the kids before I went over to the starting area. I had like a terrible warm up, and that was on like a super mega Will Reyes, race where he just like went hard. Yeah. So that was fun. I mean, I got a good workout in, and honestly, I didn't have to run at 4 a.m. I got to run at the collegiate, at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. or something. So it wasn't a terrible idea. I just couldn't warm up as well as I'd like to.
Yeah, I still think that's super funny because you're like coaching. All right, now my turn. Just picture you ripping off your sweatsuit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's one of your stories?
One of my stories was, I forget which cross country meet it was, or track. It was a track meet that I had to miss because, again, at Running Warehouse, I worked with everybody that was an Aggie. All of us worked on the same CSR floor. I put in my time off request last, and I got denied because all my other coworkers put in the time off request for that same race. Like Aaron, Nick, Derek, like Allie, they all put in their time off requests to go to a race, and I couldn't go because I was the last one to put in my time off, and I had to cover their shift because they took it off.
That's the definition. That's the definition of blue collar right there, man. Like you having to, change your plans for your job.
Yeah, it was like, all right, I can't go to this race because I just happened to put in my time off request last, and it was like, nope, sorry, you can't go. We need coverage. But yeah, I think that's like one of the example. Another one was at one of my agencies that I worked at, one of my ad agencies. I ran out of sick time or PTO.
Oh, geez.
So I couldn't go to a race because I didn't have any means of getting paid. Like I didn't have any more paid time off. So I couldn't take I think it was like a Thursday race and or a Friday race. So I needed to, do the whole traveling. I didn't have enough paid time off to be able to go on that race. So I had to wait till I accrued more and went and went to a different one.
So how does that? So if you're out of PTO, do you just not get time off, or do you just not get paid when you take a day off?
You just don't get paid if you take a day off.
You can still take a day off. You can still take time off. You just won't get paid.
Yeah, you just won't get paid. And a lot of times it's like incredibly frowned upon because it's like, well, you don't have the time. Why are you going to take it off?
Right.
Yeah. So, and some jobs are a little more lenient about that, but like the agency I was at, nope. They were like, you don't have any PTO yet, man. Like, sorry, you can't go. It's like, damn it. All right, I'm gonna skip this race
That's
then.
tough. Yeah, that is tough. I have heard of those things before with some jobs. Another funny story of how our network of friends crossed paths was I was coaching, and we were down at Arcadia, and Running Warehouse was like working the Nike tent that year or something like that. And
Yeah, I was
Scott,
there.
oh, you were there? Okay, you were there. So
Yeah.
Scott was there too, Scott Baus, and he was working. And that I had about a 2-hour break between the day and the night meet. And when you're in high school and you enter kids in Arcadia, you typically have kids sporadic throughout the day, right? I usually had kids at like 7 a.m., 10 a.m., and then all the way into like 10 p.m. But there was a 2-hour gap where I went over to the Nike booth or whatever, and I was like, "Hey, man, you want to go for a fartlek?" And he's like, he kind of thinks about it for a second. And he's like, "Yeah, let's do it." And we got our stuff together, and we went for a fartlek, a pretty solid fartlek. I ended up getting like 13 miles that day around the part, the across the street from Arcadia. Is there a cemetery? Is that a cemetery?
I think it's Arcadia Park, isn't it?
Or is it Arcadia Park?
Yeah.
But there's that loop around it's Arcadia Park or something like that. And we just did the loop around that. We did like 2 minutes or something like that. Or maybe we did like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Something like that. And and then, fist bumped, and he went back to the Nike tent, and I went back to coaching my kids.
Yeah, man. Dang, those trips were rough, man.
Those trips
That's another thing. I would work the Arcadia tent, the Nike tent, try to prevent freaking kids from stealing, and then, hey, take that out of your bag. I saw you steal that. No, I didn't. Where's your receipt? You didn't give me one.
Yeah.
No, dude. Put that back. And then after that, like getting up the next morning at like 5 a.m. to go get an 8-mile run with Aaron Potts.
Yeah, dude, those weekends were tough, and because we would have kids that would race, and then till late. We'd leave Arcadia High School at 10 p.m. to go back to, the Central Coast, and like that's not close. I mean, you guys did the drive,
4-hour drive at least.
And you get to that, that part in Ventura where it's just like dark. It's just north of the city, and it's just dark, and you still have 2 hours left.
Yeah.
That part would always get me. It's like, 12 midnight, and we still have 2 hours left. But I mean, I think that all that stuff goes towards a good place. I think that hard work in other aspects of your life work together, right? Like,
100%.
Because you worked hard in your job and you paid your dues, like that makes you a better runner. Like,
yeah,
it develops grit. It develops endurance, durability. I think it all goes to a good place.
Yeah. And it also makes you appreciative of like those trips. I know we've talked about this a couple times, like with Robert too, on that second pod, but like it just makes you appreciative of like breaking up the monotony of like your day to day, breaking up the monotony of your work. It makes you, having that blue collar aspect makes you really appreciate like those boys trips when we all pack up and go get an Airbnb in Portland.
Yeah, exactly.
Go to Beta Breakers and be goons.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you come from a place where like, I still have like, I still feel proud when my car registration is paid, like I still have that, like, yes, I got it. That car is legal for 12 more months. Like I still have that, like my car is like emissions and it only has one check engine light on, I'm feeling really good. I still have kind of that like comment the price tag mentality. Like,
yeah.
And it develops appreciation for things, even as you get, older in life, when you maybe buy a house or whatever, get married and, go on trips or whatever, you're still, you still feel like that kid in Smart and Finer or Tilly's wearing that apron, or those Dickies or whatever they made you wear at Tilly's.
Rescue jeans, bro. Rescue.
Yeah, exactly. It's humbling. It's humbling and grounding, and it makes you appreciate those like Orlando adventures just much more, right?
Yeah, definitely. But all right, it looks like we're at about the hour 15 mark. Do you have any closing thoughts here?
I think that's a strong finish, man. I think that's a Josh Kerr finish.
That's a 25 point.
That's a 25 point. That's a Ellie St. Pierre move.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a good episode. Yeah, do you have anything else?
No, I think that wraps it up.
Well, thank you everybody for listening to the Lane One Talk Show, episode 8 in the books. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe on all of our platforms. We're everywhere. Thanks. Peace.